Welcome, Anne. Hi, Anne. Oh, I can't hear you. Welcome, Santosha. Anne, I'm curious, can you hear the music playing? Yes or no? Do you hear the music? Okay. Welcome, Charlotte. And welcome, Karen. As you're arriving, just know that we have a big group that's registered, about 70 people registered for this event today. So we're gonna give time for people to arrive. Hang tight and know that we'll get started soon. Welcome, Kadisha. Welcome, Carla. So good to see you, Carla. You're muted, hun.
Hi.
Hi, Carla. And welcome, Carlos, who just joined. Welcome, Carlos.
Hey, Julia.
Hey, welcome, Darshan, that just joined. Hey, good to see you. For those of you that just hopped on, just know that we have about like 70 people registered today. So it's a big group. And you know how virtual stuff goes. People will come late and they'll won't come. We'll see. So let's give it a minute for people to arrive. We've got a bunch of new people coming in. Welcome, Jerome and Janice. Welcome, Mary. So good to see you again. And I'm just going to respond to somebody that's having trouble getting in here. Okay. All right. As we're gathering here, right into the chat box where you are in the world. I would love to see the names of everybody and where you are in the world so we get to know each other. Welcome. If you just joined, go ahead and write into the chat box where you are in the world. Jerome, hi, welcome. And Darshan, welcome. Janice is in California, Carmel, California, very cool. I'm in San Francisco as well with Carla. Washington, awesome. New York City, all the way over there. Portland, Oregon, Oakland, more San Francisco, Seattle. Wow. And I don't even know how to say that, Therese. Atascadero, California, and North Carolina. Cool. Very good. I'm so glad you're all here. Let's go ahead and dive in as people I'm sure will be still arriving. So if I need to pause to let people in, just know that that's what's going on. All right, welcome to Confident Communication, Overcome Performance Anxiety and Be Fully Expressed. Tell me, you're up at the front of the room and all the eyes turn to you, just like you all are looking at me right now. And the room goes quiet. They're awaiting your words. Are you excited to connect and shine in that spotlight? Or are you playing small and shying away out of fear and self-criticism? I mean, how many of us have experienced performance anxiety before? Either raise your hand physically or give me one of those thumbs up, the reactions you can do on Zoom. Give me some reaction. Have you had performance anxiety symptoms before? Okay, that's like everybody's raising their hand or giving me a thumbs up. Thank you. Well, I assume that's what brought you here today. And so the next important question is, well, would you like to have more rock solid confidence that you can rely on? That you can rely on. Thumbs up on that from Mary and Therese. Awesome. Well, that's what we're here to work on tonight, of how you can have that rock solid confidence you can rely on and overcome the performance anxiety symptoms as well as understand them. So by the end of this class today, I promise that you're going to understand why performance anxiety symptoms come up for you, and you're going to have some very concrete tools of how to handle them and avoid them in the future, as well as some virtual speaking tips that we all just need sprinkled in. So I am Julia Beecham Craft, your authentic expression mentor, and I know some of you, but some of you are also totally new to me. Glad that you're here, Michelle and Elise. Some of my clients are here, and a lot of people are new to me. So welcome to the world of Speak to Inspire. And you know, I mentor anxiety-prone women, especially who struggle with performance anxiety and self-consciousness and overwhelm and imposter syndrome, all of it. And I help them to find comfort in their skin. I help them to find relaxed confidence and full expression in their life and in their work. And that's what we're here to work on today. I want to clarify something from the beginning. The title of this workshop is Confident Communication, right? So what do I mean by communication? Because some of you might know that like I have a background in a lot of public speaking coaching, right? So what I mean by communication is any moment of communication when it's no longer just an everyday moment. It's a little higher stakes. It's a charged conversation. This is what I mean by communication today, because those are the moments when it really counts. If you're confident, those are the moments that you're going to be triggered the most around your performance anxiety. That could be a conference, like I'm doing a webinar right now. It could be like a conference kind of thing. It could be also a one-on-one conversation that's charged, say with your boss or a coworker. It could be a small group meeting, and it could also even extend into more of your personal life around those conversations that are really charged and heated, and sometimes it's hard to find your center and your confidence. In fact, some of my favorite feedback that I've gotten from clients is that my client started having more productive fights with her husband, she said. And I was like, that's fantastic, because she's finding her voice. Yeah, Carla knows what I'm talking about. Well, for me, I'm so thankful I get to work with all these women. I'm so thankful that you're all here, men and women. We've got both here today. Love it. And I'm so thankful you came out. I was feeling it all day. I was like, there's about 70 people registered for this. I'm hitting a chord with something that needs to be figured out right now around performance anxiety. Yeah, you hear me, Mary, on that. And I'm so thankful for this. And you might think, well, performance anxiety doesn't come up for me. You might think I'm just always confident. I am Italian. I talk with my hands. I can't help but be expressive. And it was very natural for me to go to acting school and study theater. I loved it. But you see, performance anxiety is completely normal. Everybody has it. And so it didn't necessarily come natural to me to find my authentic confidence, for sure. I experienced so much anxiety. I avoided the spotlight in subtle ways that people might not even have seen in the moment. Like I hid behind the characters in those plays that I did. Totally hid behind that. That was a safe zone. I get to be this character. I have a script and I'm safe. And then in the second part of my career, I got to hide behind being a teacher. I was a yoga teacher at that time. I just go in and I teach you the poses. I get to hide behind that. It's safe for me because I'm a highly sensitive, easily overwhelmed girl. I get really stuck in my head. I can even go disassociating sometimes. And I really was confronted with all of this when I started my own business and went out there to grow my business through speaking. I thought, I'm Italian, I have a theater degree, this is going to be super easy. But I was confronted with this in one of the first speaking gigs I had for my business. I remember I got up on this stage and I looked out at this audience of about 100 people of my ideal clients. My whole rent is on the line for this. I really went all in for my business at that time. The pressure was on and I completely blanked out, completely. Just like, eyes bulging, sweat from all the pores, heart racing. No words would come to me. Please tell me I'm not the only person that's ever experienced this. Okay, thank goodness, thank goodness. Okay, oof. I got through that talk somehow, but I certainly didn't get any clients from this opportunity. And I knew I needed to figure this out. I really needed to figure this out. And this is what I did, which is part of what we'll do today. I thought back to my theater days. Well, I must have learned something. And I started doing those warm-ups again. And the warm-ups are really important. They got me into a better state of being. But I also invested specifically in public speaking training, which is different than like comedy improv or acting training. It was about how do I handle the intensity of being myself, being vulnerable as my own voice in a real life high stakes situation. And as part of that training, I got amazing expert mentorship, right? And the important part here is that with that mentorship, I got feedback, which is so hard to receive when we're already beating ourselves up so much. But I, in that moment, allowed myself to be open to feedback and willing to do something different, something new that didn't necessarily feel like me. And along with that, this is really important, I did lots of practice. In fact, at the end of that year, I looked back on that year in my calendar and I saw that I had done 87 speaking gigs that year. That's more than once a week. I was speaking all the time. I took every opportunity, I created opportunities. I just really put myself out there. And through all of this, what I realized is that nobody comes out of the womb a perfectly confident, nobody comes out of the womb like that. It's something that has to be cultivated. I mean, I'm thankful that I took the time and got the support that I needed to do that, because then I saw organic growth in my business. And I saw that I was getting the clients that I really wanted in the first place too. And I also just saw these performance anxiety symptoms fall away. They just didn't happen anymore. I still got excited and maybe a little nervous, but it didn't stop me, right? And I'm so thankful that in the last 6 years or so of my business, I've had the pleasure of working with thousands of one-on-one clients at this point in hundreds of companies like LinkedIn and Twitter and Viva, pharmaceutical tech company here in the Bay Area, et cetera, et cetera. And I see people change every day. So from the beginning of this masterclass, I want you to know that if you've been stuck in performance anxiety for a long time, it can shift. It just takes a few key practices, and we're going to go over that process today. In our tech-based world, it's important to acknowledge that all speaking is virtual these days, pretty much, though hopefully this will be back on stages again sometime. Especially in our tech-based world, and as we go forward in a tech-based world, your ability to communicate effectively in an inspiring way from your confidence and your authenticity is the differentiating factor of your value. Does that make sense? It's like everybody's going to learn how to code, but who can communicate about the coding? So I'm a San Francisco person here. Well, just to go over a simple agenda of what we're up to tonight, we will be going into the 3 keys to overcome performance anxiety and be fully expressed. These 3 things that build on each other, that I find you have to do these 3 things in order to see a shift with your anxiety. And along the way, I would love to give you some gifts. Would that be okay if I give you some gifts of more resources and also ways to connect with me? Would that be okay? Okay, awesome. I see some thumbs up there. Thank you. All right, and just some housekeeping. I'm going to go over to my PowerPoint here. All right, let's dive into some housekeeping. So tech housekeeping, this is going to make everything go smoothly. This is going to help you get the most out of our time together today. First thing, really important thing, please turn your video on if you are not already on. I totally understand. You go to a lot of webinars, you might be multitasking, but for this masterclass, you will get the most out of it if your video's on and practice from the beginning being visible, right? So I see a bunch of people, Therese, Karen, Kadisha, and a few others here that are not on video yet, and I'm going to encourage you to be on video. Okay, and muting and unmuting. Why does that go away? There we go. You are all muted now, and you're going to stay muted unless I call on you for this group, and then it's up to you to unmute yourself. So you'll be in charge of unmuting yourself. No confusion about that. And we will have some breakout groups, so know that you will have an opportunity to speak to other people in the group. Use the chat box for your questions, and I'll be checking that, as well as I'm going to be asking for your engagement in the chat box. So if you're all in to engage with me in the chat box, please write yes or hell yes into the chat box right now. Thanks, Elise. Awesome. Anne says yes with capitals. Yes, Charlotte, Michelle, Therese. Okay, awesome. We're all in to be engaged through the chat box. Very good. You'll get the most out of it that way. And we also have reactions. So you find a reaction you like on Zoom right now and show me that you know how to use reactions. There's so many more fun ones that we can use now. Thanks, Janice. That's a great one. Clapping. Okay, very good. And then let's go into some tech best practices for speaking. This is where some of the virtual speaking aspects will come in. So pay attention to this, because it's some details that I find people just haven't figured out yet. It's a lot to figure out with our new virtual world. So, so tune in, because you'll have to participate in this one. Okay, so the first thing is sit up to be seen. For those of you that haven't turned your camera on yet, now's the time. Turn your camera on. Turn your camera on. and sit up to be seen in front of the camera. This is the beginning of you confronting your performance anxiety, right? Right here at the beginning of class. Sit up to be seen. Thank you so much for those that just turned their video on. Thank you. Okay, and then adjust the camera setup as you need to be seen from more or less your waist to your head, which means that we can see a pretty large part of your body. If you move your arms, we can see it. And that'll really support the effective communication over video. Lighting, just make sure you can be seen from the front, that your face is lit. You can see I have a bunch of light on my face. So if there's anything you can adjust now to get some lighting in your face, that'd be awesome. And it's not super important for today, but if you are in an important meeting, I think you all know to make sure that your background supports you as the speaker as opposed to takes away from you as the speaker. So neutral background. And the last thing I want to mention for you guys to get the most out of today is to have some sort of enhanced audio. So that could be, I have my AirPods in right now. Like you might just throw some headphones in or something like that. Something to enhance your audio so that you can be heard really clearly. So do these things right now, adjust these things, and you're going to get the most out of today's session, as well as these are some very concrete tips of how to come across better on virtual speaking. Okay, let's connect with you guys that are here today. I want to hear your voices. I'm going to come off of the screen share here. We have 23 people here today. And what we're going to do now is go around real quick. This should be a really fast exercise, actually, where each of you takes yourself off mute for a small moment and says, "Hi, my name is Julia, and I'm in San Francisco." So that's all it is, that you get your voice in the room and have even a spotlight moment right here for the beginning of the workshop. Here we go. I'm going to call on you and you unmute yourself. Darshan.
Hi, my name is Darshan and I'm from Oakland.
Darshan, great, thank you. Mary.
Hi, my name is Mary and I live in Portland, Oregon, and I am a native San Franciscan.
Oh, cool. Welcome, Mary. Karen Crawford. We're going to unmute you, Karen. Okay, come back to you, Karen, in just a moment. Unmute yourself. Michelle, go ahead, Michelle Chu.
Hi, I'm Michelle Chu from Carmel, California.
Welcome, Michelle. Back to Karen.
Hi, my name is Karen Crawford Moore, and I'm from Maryville, Indiana.
Wonderful. Thank you. Carla.
Hi, my name is Carla Violet, and I am in San Francisco and a native Oaklander.
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. Carlos.
Hey everyone, this is Carlos and I am based in San Francisco.
Great. Glad you're here, Carlos. Okay, Elise.
Hi, I'm Elise. I was born in San Francisco and I'm living in the East Bay and Piedmont right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Elise. Anne Franzen.
Hi, I'm Anne Franzen. I'm in Fairfield, Connecticut, and it's getting late here. It's almost 9 o'clock.
I'm glad you came out. Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I am from Lacey, Washington.
Okay, great. Welcome, Charlotte. Janice.
I'm Janice, and I am from the Bay Area, from Marin. I live in Marin.
Wonderful. Welcome, Janice. Jean.
Hi, I'm Jean. I'm from Seattle, and I'm glad to be here.
Thanks, Jean. Catherine Duff. We're going to unmute you, Catherine. It's the first test of the unmuting. We'll come back to you in a moment, Catherine. Figure out how to unmute yourself. Vikas.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vikas Sachdeva. I am from Greater Boston, and it's really getting late here as well.
Glad you came out. Okay, Robert Cunningham.
Hi, this is Robert Cunningham, born and raised in the Bay Area.
Oh, awesome. Great. Ann Lawler. Ann. She's on mute. Okay, over to Ann.
I'm from Merced, California.
And she's in the car. Be very careful, Ann. Okay, Andrea.
Hi, my name is Andrea and I'm in San Francisco.
Welcome, Andrea. Glad you're here. Santosha.
My name is Santasha and I'm from North Carolina.
Santasha, thank you. This is also for me to learn how to say your names.
Yes.
Therese.
Hi, my name is Therese and I live in Atascadero, California. And I'm going to turn on my camera as soon as I finish my dinner.
Sounds good, thank you. Kadisha. Kadisha, Jerome, are you here? Okay, we've got some people off video, not as engaged. We're gonna go over to Catherine again. I wanna hear your voice.
Oh, hi, my name's Catherine and I'm from Australia.
Welcome. Wow, the
Thank
furthest
you.
distant. You just won that that race. Okay, cool. It's so good to have you all here, and you're all here to learn about the same things. I hope you feel the support from the group as well. What was it like to be in the spotlight for a moment? What was it like? Give yourself a rating. Thumbs up, I loved it. It was totally, I approve of myself. I think I did fantastic. And thumbs down, I think it was terrible. Gosh, I just want to climb under the desk and go away. And of course, in between as well. So show me with your thumb what you thought of your own little presentation. Okay, there's some self-judgment going on here, yeah? So that points to what's going on in your mind. Let's get into it a little bit as we go into the talk here. Okay, I'll bring us back. So the first thing I need to introduce is that there are two parts of communication. This is really, I mean, it's obvious in some ways, but it's really important to say that there's two parts of communication. There's verbal and there's nonverbal. Duh, but worth saying, because we're gonna work on both of these and we're gonna talk about what really matters in terms of these. And then the next piece is to understand confidence. There are two types of confidence. There's outer confidence, which is how other people perceive you, and often based on how you look, like how you're holding your body, how you sound, right? It's outer confidence. And then there's inner confidence, which is how you perceive you. So this goes to the core of self-esteem and how you manage your nervous system. And we're gonna have elements of both of these things throughout the session today and throughout my work, because you can't really have one without the other. The outer confidence stuff is not gonna stick. Like, you learn techniques, they don't stick, they don't feel authentic if you don't have the true connection to your inner confidence. All right, so I'm gonna come back now off of screen share. Sometimes it's a navigation process. And I'm gonna put out a poll for you guys so that we can understand, what are your biggest challenges? What are your biggest challenges in high stakes communication moments? I wanna target this presentation to who's here today. And as you guys are filling that out, I'll share some of the common things that I see. You know, the common things that I see is that people are struggling with all kinds of performance anxiety symptoms that come up as things like heart racing, sweating, shaky, fidgety, frozen, flush, rambling, blankouts, and disassociation is the most extreme. And that comes from roots of imposter syndrome and self-consciousness, self-criticism, comparing yourself to others, social anxiety in general, from the nerves and fear of being in front of an audience. And it's triggered by maybe what somebody's face looks like, or the size of the audience, or the single person that's in the room. It's triggered by a lot of things from the past or personal things. We'll get into the why in just a moment. So this is often what I see. I think that everybody's answered the poll so far. So I'm gonna end the poll and share the results here. Okay, so the biggest thing that you guys are struggling with is the anxiety, nerves, and fear, which makes sense that you're here in this workshop. And then the self-criticism and perfectionism is the next biggest. So, okay, I'm gonna focus on that stuff tonight for sure. As we go into the why of this, it's important to see this image that I have for you. Let's see, let me get this screenshot up. Okay, you see this little guy who's at his microphone. He's so cute, but what is the emotion that you would say he's experiencing on the inside based on what you see from him on the outside? Write it in the chat box now. What's the emotion that you think that he is experiencing? The chat box. Oh crap. Fear, scared, yeah. I like the oh crap. That's gets to the heart of it, Michelle. Terror, yes, terror, yeah. Panic, terror, fear, yes, absolutely. And so I would venture to say that a lot of us that say that you experience anxiety are feeling like this little boy on the inside, even though you might not show it on the outside. Like you might get through a presentation. Nobody might know that you're having a total freak out on the inside. Karen's shaking her head. Yeah, but you know it, and it's super uncomfortable. So there can be a huge lack of congruency between the inner and the outer confidence. Now let's understand why this is happening. Now that we've gotten to the root of it, I'm going to bring us back. Let's understand why this is happening. The first thing you need to understand is all those symptoms that I mentioned of being flushed and shaking and having trouble breathing, all of that, like this is really stressful. It's actually a lower T trauma situation. It's traumatic, right? To have these kind of symptoms. And if you've had a lot of these symptoms in the past, it starts to build up and you're fearing the situation in the first place. It becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And when you're in a trauma state, your nervous system goes from stay and play mode, where it's like, okay, I'm excited or I'm engaged, like there's stuff going on, but I'm willing to stay and play with it. Goes from that to fight or flight. And then it might also go all the way down into freeze. So fight or flight in terms of communication might show up with something like, if you're going to fight, when your nervous system gets activated, you would say, try to get dominance over the situation in some way. You might raise your voice. In fact, I've seen people like stand up and like lean in. But a lot of the times my clients aren't prone to those kind of more aggressive choices. And fleeing or flight is more common, and that might look like small things. It could be as small as I just start to cross my legs and lean back and look down. This is a version of fleeing. Do you see it? And my voice even might sort of go away. Like I don't really want. Santosha gets it. Santasha. Shrinking. Yes, Janice. So that's really common, but freeze or fleeing might also be you literally just defer to somebody else. So you might just give it away. What's the most common though, if we can't fight and we can't really fully flee, which is common in communication moments, is that you go into freeze. And freeze is like that little boy, frozen, deer in headlights, right? Animals do this in the wild so that the lion thinks that they're dead and they are safe. They don't get eaten. So it's actually a good nervous system choice. Good nervous system, right? Good nervous system. But it's also really uncomfortable, really stressful, and not effective as a speaker. It totally limits your effectiveness as a communicator. So being stuck in the freeze state is the biggest challenge as we go into this work. Some reasons why you might go into fight, flight, or freeze is because of negative history from the past. It's like, oh, this happened to me when I was even 5 years old. And it starts to build a pattern. Like I've had people get on a call with me and they say, I peed my pants in show and tell in 5th grade. And it still comes up today when I get in the spotlight that something's going to go wrong. Or sometimes it starts more as an adult. What is the history that starts to compound on itself? Think about your own history. And then on top of that, the conditioning that you received from childhood, most likely, of what's okay to communicate, what's not, what's polite, what's not, what's appropriate, what's not, what's professional, what's not. All that conditioning can keep us in quite a box and lead to a lot of that self-criticism. And the last thing I want to share here today around why this performance anxiety often comes up and why it's important to deal with it is that your nonverbal communication is speaking a lot louder than your words, and your nonverbal communication is the unconscious part of your communication. Does that make sense? It's the unconscious part. It's happening from a habitual place. And there's a great study that was done in the late 1970s. It's been done since then a lot, called the Dr. Fox study. And they wanted to see what made a great presenter. So they brought in a big audience and 2 different speakers. Our first speaker is a doctor, a real doctor with PhDs and tons of experience. And he gives a talk on what he's known for, stands behind a podium and gives his talk. Our second speaker is an actor that they hired to read a few articles of our real doctor a few days before and just give a presentation on what he knew. Now, what did our actor do differently? Well, he moved around the stage. He looked people in the eye. He had lots of energy and dynamics. And so afterwards, our audience is given a survey of who they liked more and trusted more and thought was more knowledgeable. Well, who do you think they chose? Write it in the chat box now. Do you think they chose the actor or the doctor? Actor or the doctor? Jean says the actor. I don't know. The actor. Oh, lots of actors coming in. Well, you're totally right. Thanks, Carla. Definitely the actor. It was the actor because the statistic is that 93% of what the audience was responding to was the nonverbal communication. So write into the chat box now, what are some examples of nonverbal communication? Everything other than the words, right? Everything other than the words. Gestures, yes, that's a good one. Posture, eye contact or no eye contact. Movement, facial expressions, gestures, yes. Distance, tone, oh gosh, okay, this is good. So everything with your voice, everything with your body, that's what's making the biggest impression. 93% of what they're responding to. And how many of you spend 93% training your nonverbal communication and being really aware of how it's impacting others and even from the inside, how it's feeling right now. So notice yourself right now, like notice what your nonverbal communication is doing right now. Bring it into conscious awareness. Yeah, we're not going to do anything with it yet, but you just notice. So these are the ways that I see why performance anxiety is happening. If we go back to this little dude, it's like he is being chased by this tiger out in the savannah, right? And he's constantly in the anticipation of, I am about to be eaten. And then the nonverbal communication starts to follow that. Notice, you know, if this was you on a stage, people would definitely be feeling your anxiety, not your confidence. All right, so let's dive into the 3 keys to overcoming performance anxiety, which the first one is to connect with yourself, which when I say it that way, it sounds sort of woo-woo, but what I mean is that you can only give what you have. So if in that presentation moment, you feel tons of anxiety, then that's what you have to give. And so if you want to shift this pattern, we have to start by getting you into a different state before you go into the presentation moment. Before, you hear me? Like, what do you usually do before you go into an important presentation or conversation? Write that in the chat box. I'd be really curious to hear. Where'd my chat box go? There we go. What do you do right before? Yeah. Wing it, review notes, breathe deeply. That's good, Therese. Meditate, good. Hide, okay. Power poses, practice, okay, good. And all of this is good. Like, keep doing those things. Well, maybe not other than hide. I don't know about hiding. That's not the best choice. Review notes like crazy. I hear you, Karen. Yeah. Accept the anxiety. Yeah, be present with it. That's a good one. Yes. So there's things to do before you get in there that are going to be really, really important to shift your state. I'm going to come off of my screen share and let's do some things together. So what can you do to shift your state before you get into that intense situation? Well, first of all, you need to notice when the symptoms start to come up for you. And I'm actually, would you guys like some more tools around this beyond this workshop? So I'm going to give you a link in the chat box right now to a blog that I wrote with some tips and tools about this for later. And there's a little recording in there that you can use to release anxiety. But we're going to do some together today because the key is to have a warm-up routine that works for you. Not just one little thing, but like, oh, something you do on the regular. Like I know Elise, who's been one of my longest term clients. She's off video right now, but Elise is awesome. She will get up in the morning and make her tea and be massaging her jaw and making some sounds as she's doing that, because she, you know, she has speaking gigs all the time and she wants to be at her best. So doing warm-ups on a regular basis. Let's do some things today to shift your state of being right away. So do this with me. We're just going to sit back in our chairs wherever you are. You're going to lean back in a way that's comfortable. You could do this standing, you could do this lying down as well, whatever you prefer. And we're going to have that internal moment before you give to all those people that want to hear your message. You're going to fill yourself up a bit, because you can only give what you have. So go ahead and turn your eyes downwards or close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Now, this might seem like meditation, and it's definitely meditative, but it's not intended to be meditation. We are getting ready to connect outwards with the world, with others, by first connecting with yourself. So give yourself a check-in, scanning first through your physical body. How's your physical body today? How is your physical body today? You notice from head to toe, how's my body? Might be tight in places, achy, tired. Good, so you notice that. And then notice your mental body, your mind. What's the state of your mind today? Is it racing? Is it stuck on one thought? Is it super floaty? You notice the state of your mind today. That really comes into your communication. And you notice now your emotional state, which really influences your communication as well. Maybe those emotions have been stuffed down, so let them come to the surface. There might be some leftover anger from a conversation from this morning. There might be some anxiety about this presentation in particular. And lastly, notice your overall energy state. What is your energy? 1 to 10, ready to run a marathon, 10, or total couch potato, 1. That is also really important for your communication. Okay, with all that in mind, we're going to take some deep breaths together to regulate your nervous system, that if it was a real presentation, you might already be in fight or flight. We're going to regulate it back to a state of stay and play, right? So do this with me. Exhale completely. Exhale completely. And inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, and out the mouth, exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, out the mouth, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last breath, inhale through the nose for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale out the mouth for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Okay, so right into the chat box, what you see is different after 3 deep breaths and checking in. Give a check-in with yourself. What's different after those 3 breaths? Oh, Anne got sleepy. More relaxed, calmer, relaxed and energized. That relaxed poise or poised relaxation is great. Good, more relaxed. Now, I know that you all probably aren't in your full out performance anxiety right now, but imagine if you did this when you were, how powerful that would be as a reset. And this is just the beginning of the tools that I work with my clients on, but it's a foundation. 3 deep breaths can change so many things. The last thing here in the connect with yourself section is more of about on the mental level of connecting with your intention that you're going into that session with, that conversation. And I realize the word intention has like total woo-woo. It comes off woo, but that's not what I mean. I'm thinking of it in terms of, as an actress, when I had a script, I had subtext for every line. So I would have a line and then I would write underneath of it in my own writing, the subtext that went with it, that was the character's inner experience. So for example, if the line that I had was, I hate you, that's the line, a simple little line. And the subtext is, let's say the subtext is, I despise you, you're disgusting. How would I deliver that line? It'd be something like, I hate you. Yeah, my nonverbal communication communicates the subtext. Now, what if I had that same line, I hate you, but the subtext now is, I love you, I adore you. The line might be delivered something like, I hate you. It's completely different, right? Completely different communication. So to connect with yourself, one of the most important things you need to do before going into a session and overcome your anxiety, it's to connect with what is your subtext that you're bringing in. What subtext would be the most beneficial? This is working with your mind. So the unconscious subtext for a lot of situations might be, I hope that they like me. I hope that I do a good job. They're probably going to think I'm not as good as that other person. And they're probably going to think that I don't have enough information, or they're probably not going to think I'm going to be as good a speaker as they are. There could be, that's the comparisonitis and the imposter syndrome, all that stuff comes out. So what if your subtext was something like, I'm really passionate about this stuff and I really want them to see it? What if the subtext was, oh, here's one from Mary. I am more connected to my heart and solar areas. Oh, that was from the exercise before. I thought that was a subtext. So what if the subtext was, I believe in what I'm saying? What's some ideas of subtext that you could bring in? Go ahead and write that in the chat box. I think it's really good to brainstorm that in a moment that you don't have like something challenging to think about. Anne says, I want to impress. That's a fine line, Anne, because it might get into needing to prove. So I would go with something that you already are enough. Everything I offer is already perfect, and I am so excited to share it with them. Jean says, I really care about what I'm telling you. Yeah, great. Elise says, I had a rough day, but yet I believe in my mission. Yeah, no need for perfectionism, right? We all are human. Santasha is, I'm excited and ready to say this. Yeah, awesome. So feel what changes in you when you connect to that subtext. Your whole nonverbal communication will change. So that's the first key. It's really important. And gosh, there's so many things I could get into about that. And in fact, if you want to do some more exercises, calming exercises around this, I'm going to grab this link right here. That will be for a mini course that I offer that's totally complimentary, my gift to you on this stuff. So I'm going to put that in the chat box now. Okay, so get that mini course. But as we go into the next thing, we're going to be building on this. That the next step is, once you're connected to yourself, be present with others. Be present with others, because performance anxiety is often all about you. We think of it as about everybody else. We're worried what they're going to think of us. We're worried about they're judging me. And yet it's all about, what do they think of me? And I've heard it's called in the performance speaking, public speaking realm, an innocent narcissism. It's all about you. You're innocent in it, like you don't mean to, but it's all about you and what they think of you and how you look, and nobody's sitting there worrying about that. They just want to receive your message. We're all inherently a little selfish that way. You're not seeing any of the links. I'm seeing that in the chat box. Thank you for that. It's going to the waiting room. You're right. I will get to that. Let's see, everyone in the meeting. Okay, thank you guys. Sorry about that. Didn't know that was even a thing. Cool. I just put in the chat box. Thanks for asking. Cool. So let's talk about being present with others. Whoops, we just went to the next one. Sneak preview. So being present with others shows up in a lot of ways, but the mindset shift here is, instead of my content being perfect being the most important thing, connection becomes more important. Instead of, me looking good, Me being present with that other person and making sure that they understand, it becomes more important. And the mindset shift is that I'm going to give a gift versus I need to make sure to get their attention. Get. I'm going to give a gift. And this shows up in terms of outer confidence with a few technique-oriented things that I'm sure you guys think of as public speaking techniques, you know, like through eye contact and engagement. And let's talk about eye contact specifically for a moment. Everybody always asks me, where do I look for virtual speaking? Where do I look? More important than anything is that your eyes are forward and you show that you're present with the room, right? That's the most important thing. So even if they're down a little bit on the screen, but you're looking at something in particular that they know what you're looking at, it's okay. But if your eyes are going all over the place and maybe you're a little distracted on your phone or whatever, that's when we start to lose the connection and it impacts your presence. And it will start to impact how you feel too. That starts to encourage more anxiety when the eyes are going away and you're multitasking. When you're more relaxed, when you're more centered, you will naturally be able to stay present and handle the intensity of being seen and seeing. But more specifically, to give you a little technique here around virtual speaking is look towards the top third of the computer. Just look towards the top third and we'll feel like you're looking right at us. Because sometimes I look a little bit down and a little bit up and it's okay. I'm still looking at you guys. And more importantly, can you hold eye contact when you don't know what to say, when you're not sure? Can you sit in that intensity and probably also fill that space with a nice juicy pause as opposed to looking away? And the other piece around engagement, if connection is really more important, then I'm going to make sure that you're engaged with me, right? You understand? I mean, does that make sense? You've probably heard this before. And now I'm just asking questions to make a point. Because asking questions is a fundamental way to engage an audience. There's no need to feel like you're all by yourself. There's no need, even in a one-on-one conversation, that you have to talk and engage all the time. Like, allow there to be a question and then you'll get response in nonverbal or verbal ways. And then you can riff off of that and relax, lean back from having to carry all the heavy load of performing. Yeah. Engagement strategies is a big topic of lots of ways you can do it, but the foundation is to ask questions. So you've seen me today, like, ask you to raise your hand. There's been polls. I ask little questions at the end of a sentence, right? There's so many ways you can get creative about asking questions, but I really, really encourage you to specifically include more engagement in your presentations and when you're communicating. I say if you're doing a presentation, at least include one specific engagement technique every 5 minutes. So at least one every 5 minutes at least. That's for like more of a presentation style. If you're in a smaller group, it's going to be more often. And if you're one-on-one, it's going to be even more often, right? And the last piece here is a really important piece about being present with others. And that's to let go of perfectionism and like gripping onto content. Who here is somebody that wants to know exactly what they're going to say? Like script writers, where are my script writers? Need to know everything I'm going to say. Got about half the group has their hands up. Okay. Yeah, so if that's your safety net, then to overcome some performance anxiety and be more freely expressed, more authentic, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to start to embrace improvisation. Embrace improvisation. Now, when I say improvisation, what do you think of? What it comes to mind? You can write that in the chat box now. What does improvisation mean to you? Comedies, yeah. By memory, not scripted, speaking genuinely. Is that a word? The comedians, making up something, speaking on the fly. Yeah, totally. I just wanted to make sure you guys weren't thinking of comedy improv necessarily, because comedy improv is its own thing. I don't need you guys to become Saturday Night Live improvisers, but I do want you to embrace improvisation as a way of communicating, because you are already an improviser. You are already an improviser. Everybody is, every human being is. You know, you go to the grocery store and you're checking out. Do you have a script when you're talking to that attendant? Or when you're having a drink with your girlfriend or your guy friend, like, are you guys have a script for that conversation? No, you're improvising and you're using engagement and eye contact and all the things we talked about today. So do those same things when you get into your presentations. Let's let go of there being so much a separation between my personal life, personal relationships where I'm comfortable, and my professional life where things are, I need to be a certain way and like, so let's let this blend a little bit. Of course, there's going to be differences, but if you can let yourself improvise more, you'll be more of yourself. You'll find your own voice, and you won't have as much pressure around, oh, I have to say that exact thing. Oh, there's so much I could say about improvisation. I teach a lot of improv templates to my clients. I do a lot of training around how to use those templates and how to like transition and navigate through them. We're not going to get into all those details today. Know that I have some mini courses coming out later this year that will be around improv templates. So just look out for that. That's coming. But the main idea here is that you let yourself speak from your expertise. You've already got your expertise. You guys are experts, right? Give me a thumbs up if you are an expert. Jean, I love that. She was like, hell yes, I'm an expert. Yeah, that was an easy thumbs up. Okay. Okay, good thumbs up that other people are looking at me like, I don't know, I'm not sure. So we'll work on that. You really are an expert. You know, if you're being asked to communicate and speak about your stuff, then you already know a lot. And to improvise, all you need to do is let yourself speak naturally from your expertise. All right, chugging right along here. Once you are connected to yourself and present with others, then the next key to unraveling performance anxiety and being fully expressed is to start to be open to feedback. That's hard, but it's necessary. And then willing to do something new. What do I mean by this? Well, feedback comes in different ways. Feedback comes directly through somebody saying like, your eye contact sucks. Or feedback comes with saying something really general, like, hey, you need to find more executive presence, which is like, whoa, what does that mean? But a lot of times, more times, feedback comes through nonverbal communication. Just seeing how people are responding. Maybe you often take that personally, like, oh, they don't like me, I'm screwing up. I'm doing a really bad job. Oh, but it's actually just feedback to you of how to shift. And so that's why the second part of this is be willing in the moment to do something new. Even if you feel anxious, don't let your anxiety stop you. Be willing to do something different in response to the feedback you're getting. The other reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of times when I'm working with people, I'll invite them to do something that's more direct, you could say, with their communication, or more authentic, or bigger, just bigger expression, louder maybe. And the first response I'll get is, ooh, I don't know, that's not really me. I don't know. It doesn't feel like me. I'm sort of introverted, actually. I'm shy. And I hear you. I'm introverted too. Do you believe me? Like, no, she's not. I am introverted. I spend most of my life here at home with my kitty on my lap, just like under a blanket. I have my fuzzy blanket. I'm an introvert, okay? But I am willing to do something different because it's what serves others, and I have a message that I want to share. So that's what I mean is when you're invited forward with your voice, that's a comfort zone to start to sink into, a new comfort zone. And then it becomes a little switch inside of you that you can go from curled up with my fluffy blanket and my kitty on my lap to presenting and connecting and communicating mode. And you can still be yourself in those two different scenarios. So willingness to do something new. There's a few important public speaking techniques that I want to get to here that are some of the most challenging to actually be willing to do. That's the key, be willing to do. And as part of this, you have to get into the mindset of, I am 100% willing to be seen and heard. How does that feel? Actually, try that out for me. Say this out loud in your space. I am willing to be seen and heard. Try that. Oofa, oofa, that's a rough one, right? How did that feel to say that? You can write that in the chat box. How did that feel? This is the core of it. As we get into these techniques, you'll be challenged. Charlotte says it felt great. Vika says it was a natural, inauthentic, Jean says. Carla liked it. Michelle, I'm not entirely convinced. Okay, that's a range there, all good. So what I'm gonna ask you to do is be a little bit more direct. Karen says it was scary. I hear you. So what about letting go of so's? I say so a lot. Fillers and softeners. What are some examples of fillers and softeners? You could write that in the chat box now. Fillers and softeners are a way to avoid being seen and heard. I have something to say, and I'm going to cover it up with a bunch of other things so that you don't quite hear everything I have to say. And it's a version of a little bit of hiding and covering up. Oh, there's some great ones coming out here in the chat box. Yes. Michelle says a giggle. That's a good one. Yeah, when there's a consistent like laugh, that can be a way to hide a little bit. Yeah. So let's say a phrase together with and without fillers and softeners. The phrase is, I'll write it in the chat box, I have something to say. It's a simple phrase. It's very direct. Whoop, that went to Charlotte privately. Whoopsies. So you guys get it. I have something to say. Just say that out loud directly. I have something to say. It's a powerful statement in of itself. It's a good one to practice. I have something to say, because you do. Now let's add some fillers and softeners. It would be something like this. Like I sort of like, I have maybe, basically well, I have something like to sort of say. It's painful, just keeps going. Like when are you gonna actually say the thing? I'm exaggerating to make a point, but try this out for a moment. Say that phrase, that line, I have something to say, with a bunch of fillers and softeners. Get it out of your system. Ready? Go. Something perhaps, basically, yeah. Okay, so this is something to be really aware of. Yeah, but how do we stop this habit? Well, this habit will tend to naturally fall away as you do some of the things I talked about before, as you warm up more, as you focus on being present with others more, and yet it might still be there. So your job is to sit in the center of the discomfort of being seen. Does that make sense? Sit in the discomfort of being seen and replace any fillers or softeners with pauses. Because they will come up. I would say everybody has a tendency to do certain fillers or softeners. You're going to replace those with pauses. The other big thing that I see is upspeak. You've probably heard about upspeak, where everything sounds like a question and my tone goes up at the end. Like I'm not really sure about what I'm saying. This is really common when people are trying to avoid subtly, unconsciously, being heard and being certain. I'd rather just like leave some room open that maybe I'm not actually right, or maybe I don't actually have to fully take responsibility for this statement, and I just throwing it to the side a little bit. So try that same phrase, I have something to say, with upspeak, and then we'll do it with down gliding. Repeat after me. I have something to say. Try that. Yeah, I wish I could hear you guys right now. And then going down, I have something to say, goes down at the end. Yeah. Which one's more powerful, 1 or 2? Just hold up your fingers, 1 or 2. Yeah, definitely more powerful. It's like a punch. We believe you. And also you'll start to feel that on the inside. It goes from the outside in too, that, oh, I am certain about this. This is true. So you can use the techniques to access the confidence on the inside as well. Yes, so this is a really powerful shift, something that will help you to actually implement this as a new choice, is to use your hands like I was doing when I was doing my example just a moment ago. I noticed it slashing through the air. I have something to say. So do that with me now. I have something to say. I'm not like wishy-washy with my hands. My hands are crisp and clear, which will support your mind to also commit to the message. My work is always a somatic work. I don't know if you guys know that term, somatic. It means that there's a mind-body connection. It's not about meditating on the mountain by any means. It's about the fact that when you're communicating, like I said before, the nonverbal communication is everything. So we gotta have your body fully on board. It's a physical experience. Also, trauma is stored in your muscle memory. So to unravel stress, we have to go through your body. So everything that I do has a somatic element, and you've already started to see that. Okay, so wow, we went over a lot of things. The time just flies here. Let me review real quick, and then we're gonna go into some breakout groups for you to try this. Try this. That's where the rubber hits the road. All right, so we went over connecting with yourself. We used breathing and that check-in on the different levels, as well as being aware of your subtext to connect with yourself. Now you can do that in the middle of a communication as well. You can breathe deeply while you're speaking. You can stay connected to your subtext. In fact, we're all at home on our computers anyway. You can put a Post-it on your computer to remind yourself of your subtext. We talked about being present with others, which you show through your eye contact, as well as you commit to presence through your eye contact. And you also show and commit to presence through engagement, doing specific engagement techniques, often by asking questions. Just remember thinking, is there something else in that section? Oh yeah, improvisation. By remembering to let go of scripts and embrace improvisation, go with the flow. And then just now we talked about letting go of fillers and softeners, letting go of upspeak and coming into down gliding with the tone. Whew, that's a lot. Before we go into breakout groups, I want to talk to you about feedback. This section is about feedback in the third section. So you're going to give each other feedback, and feedback is often where things go wrong with growing as a communicator and causes a lot more anxiety. Write into the chat box some terrible feedback that you've received about your presence. Maybe useful or hurtful or whatever. What's something that's stuck in your mind? It can be pretty traumatic. So feedback isn't always given well, but here's how I suggest giving feedback that will support you. Mary says you are so stiff. Oh, that's a rough one to hear. You look nervous. Yeah, that's rough to hear too. You're gonna give 75% positive feedback, positive, and just 25% constructive, not negative, constructive. Now that constructive piece is important, but I don't want it to be general. Like, oh, you could be more confident, or like, you need to figure out how to be more, I don't know, present, and is really vague. I want you to be specific. You learned some specific things today, so you can pinpoint those things for the person that you'll be with and give them that specific feedback. 75% positive, 25% constructive. And in fact, bonus points if you do it in a sandwich. A lot of positive, a constructive piece, and then another positive. That's what feels the best for our tender egos that are already full of self-criticism on ourselves. Let me see some of the feedback you guys have gotten. Elise says, I didn't understand what you were talking about. That's a rough one to know what to do with. Stop swaying and be enthusiastic. Woof. Yeah, how do you just turn that on? That's not very inspiring. Good. Okay, speaking from the mind versus the heart. Hard to figure out what to do with that. Yeah. Okay, guys, we've got 22 people here. That's a perfect number because I'm going to put you into breakout groups now. And how this is going to work, where's the breakout groups? There we go. How this is going to work is that you're going to be in a group of 2. And each person will get a minute to a minute and a half to speak. What you speak about is up to you. But I would recommend that you speak about something that you would actually speak about in the world so you can practice it, you know? So you're going to speak for a minute to a minute and a half, have your phone out or something that has a timer on it. So you keep track of your time, and then about a minute of feedback to that person, right? Give feedback, 75% positive, 25% constructive. And then we'll switch. So it'll be 4-ish, 5 minutes in these breakout groups. I'll give you little notifications as we go along. You ready? You ready to go into breakout groups and speak? Give me a thumbs up here. Give me like, woo, woo. Okay, cool. Here we go. We're gonna do 10 breakout rooms. Wait, no, 11 breakout rooms. Here we go. Have fun.
Hey, you're gonna flash that on me again?
And let's see, and what happened to it? It should still be there.
I don't know, it just flashed and then it was breakout room 5.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get.
I'm sure it's still there, hun. Okay, let's see. 1, 2. Okay, and Anne's not. Let's see, 4. Room 6. Hey, Elise, you're not going into your breakout room?
There was no one in there but me, so I came back.
She's there now.
Oh, okay. Okay, so how
Yeah.
do I go back? Oh, join. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jerome, if you're here, it's time to go into the breakout rooms. Okay, I'm gonna put this into room 4. Okay.
I don't know what happened either. We lost each other, but now we're back.
Okay, good. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so, and I don't know what I was saying at that time. Yes, I
You
live in
said you
Boston.
lived west of Boston, and where
Yeah,
about?
west of Boston. And then I worked in
Oh, hey, Anne, you ended up here by yourself, huh?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, hon.
I don't know.
We're about to wrap up here with the breakout groups, but you want to talk to me for a second?
Okay.
Okay, great. I'm going to bring us back.
Okay.
Wait, can you send me back?
Janice, no, I don't think I can. To the
All
breakout
right.
rooms, it's open for 31 seconds.
I know, darn. I somehow got ejected.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Michelle.
how was that for you guys? What did you notice in your little groups?
It was fun.
Jean, yeah, what did you notice?
Well, Darshan was really amazing in that I didn't realize she was starting the presentation. She just kind of went right into it out of me asking her if she wanted to go first. So I was just like, wow, I think this is her talk. And it was very natural. Yeah, she was very natural.
Good. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I'd love to hear from one or two people how that was for you and what did you notice about giving and receiving feedback? Who would like to share? Just raise a hand. Don't be shy. This is a communication class. Yeah. Andrea, go ahead, unmute yourself.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting, so Carlos was my partner, was that I noticed that he had, like, the stuff that he's really good at is the stuff that I totally struggle with, like being, I'm like really so reserved, and he was just very relaxed and using hand gestures and all of that stuff. So when I actually did mine, I felt like I was kind of warmed up thinking like, oh yeah, remember that we need to do that. But actually his feedback to me was stuff that it's something I would never even think of myself that I'm trying to do. So it actually made me feel more confident about speaking to my audience because there's this positive aspect of it. And when I'm just so focused on the negative, that's all I see.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I'm so glad Carlos provided that. Like, you really made a difference. That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. So this is what I mean by history, that I'm going to spotlight me again. This is what I mean by the history building up, that like there can be a lot of negative history and that negative history is also what you've told yourself about yourself. Like that's building up over time. That's a history there. And so you have to rewrite that history. And one of the best ways to do that is to be in a supportive community like this, a supportive group, a safe place to get positive feedback. And that's why I wanted that 75% positive feedback. Cool. Let's hear from one more person. Who would like to share about what that was like? What did you notice about giving and receiving feedback? One more person? Raise a hand. Ma says thumbs up. I think that's great.
Instead of can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So what I thought of, I spoke to Karen. I thought she was spot on. Her tone and the bass was brilliant in a presentation. So I would have loved to hear what she was saying. And the topic was engaging. So what I've seen is actually, as a presentation for her, I could not fault her for anything. She was really great. I feel like what we're struggling with is just the number of people in a room that really shakes us. And that's what I personally struggle with. Even if I'm comfortable with the material, I know what I'm talking about, I know how to present in a smaller group, but once I go to a bigger crowd or to senior management where the stakes are really high, you that negative talk, I've been researching this for the past 3 years because my roles just got bigger and bigger. And the more you get there, the more pressure you've got on you if you made a mistake. And that kind of added more and more. So I feel like it's the crowd number and that negative talk that it just doesn't go away, that we continue to tell ourselves. And I try to do that positive talk before every meeting And so far, I haven't been successful much about it. But yeah, that's what
I hear you. Yeah, thank you for sharing because it's so true. And we will have some Q&A time in just a little bit. But to touch on this briefly, like I said, I have a somatic approach to this work because you're right. We can talk positive to ourselves all day, but the reality is that there's still a lot of stress in the body. There's a lot of stress in the nervous system. So that connect with yourself piece is really, really important to be able to apply these techniques of positive thinking or being able to connect with your eyes more, etc. And especially in those higher stakes situations. This was a pretty low stakes situation probably for most of you, but it's a good place to practice and to get some new muscle memory. And like we saw with Andrea, you know, build that positive history. So I hope that you guys got a lot out of today's session, and we're going to go over some takeaways in just a moment. But I wanted to ask, as we're wrapping up here, you know, this is a beginning. In a lot of ways, it's an introduction to some things that really matter and some ways of thinking about it that will really matter for you to overcome performance anxiety. But who here would be excited to learn more and practice more? You know, like do more of this and really overcome it. Yeah, thank you, Janice. Thank you, Mary and Robert and Jean. Awesome, lots of hands up. Great. Well, I would like to share an invitation with you, and I share this as a way for you and I to grow together, and an opportunity really for you to fully get what you came here to this masterclass for, because confidence is it's something that's cultivated over time. It doesn't just happen overnight. So I would be a bad coach if I just left you with what you learned today, just expect you to go and be totally transformed, because it just won't happen. This is a beginning, and I hope it helps you. I hope you got a ton out of it and you can go apply this stuff right away. But for those of you that you know you've been stuck in perfectionism for a long time, you know that you get those anxiety states and maybe even disassociation when the spotlight is on you. And there's a difference between how you communicate when you're more relaxed and like in a personal environment, and there's a different way you communicate when you're in a professional environment and you're charged, and you want to find that authenticity. Then I want to invite you to a next step with me, if you'd like to. That will be a great way to get some feedback and get some understanding of your unique challenges. So I'm going to share my screen here to share that with you. Here we go. There we go. Okay. So what I'd like to invite you to is the performance anxiety strategy session. This is a session, like it says, to strategize, right? To think through really what's going on with your performance anxiety. And what we'll do in that session, it's a 30-minute one-on-one phone call with me to go deeper. I mean, I got a sense of pretty much everybody here. So as we talk on the phone, we're going to look at your unique challenges, and I can give you some personalized feedback on what I saw in you today. And you can unpack that more too, because this is more general, right? But really what matters is your unique story, your unique history, your unique conditioning, all of that. And then we're going to clarify the next steps. What is your vision for, say, 6 months to a year from now that you really want for your communication? And then you can see the gap between those things. And we can see at that point, you know, is Speak to Inspire programs a good fit for you? Like, do you want to hang out with me more and learn some more things from me? Because I have a unique approach to this stuff that comes from a lot of different backgrounds, and we can see if it's a good fit for you. So I'd like to invite you to this session. This is, you know, my hourly rate is $350 an hour. So there's a lot of value in this session in that way too. But I'm so thankful for those of you that came out live here. I mean, that takes a lot to, first of all, choose that you want to grow in this way, and that you make the time to come out live in our virtual weird world where we can all listen to recordings whenever we want. Like, I really value your time and that you came out. So I want to make this easy for you. I want to make taking the next step easy for you, ultimately, because I believe this work will help you. And so the next step here is to go to chatwithjulia.com and find a time that works for you, because I'm offering you this session as my gift to you, totally complimentary. So go ahead and grab that link right now while I'm talking. Everybody just grab that link so that you have it, chatwithjulia.com, put it in your browser, and you'll see there it takes you to a really short questionnaire, and then it takes you to my online calendar to find a time. There's just a few times available in the next week and a half or so. So as you guys are doing that, What I want to wrap up with is to remind you that we can stay in touch as well through the Speak to Inspire newsletter, which I put in the chat box. Let me bring me back. So I'll put that link in the chat box again just now. But as we wrap up, what were your biggest takeaways from today? What were the things that stood out in your mind as that was the thing I really needed, and that's going to be the thing that I use going forward? What stood out to you today? Write that into the chat box now. And also, whoever would like to share, just raise a hand and you can come off mute and share what were your biggest takeaway. Charlotte says, I think we only get one link in this chat box. Yeah, okay. Who wants to share their biggest takeaways? Jean, go ahead and unmute yourself. What was your biggest takeaway?
I like the way you model that it's possible. And yeah, I feel like you make it seem like I can really get over it. So yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I'm glad that I do. That's been a journey, right? And I can totally say for sure you can. You know, there is another side to this, and there's just some things to learn, some ways to up level and grow. I hope you jump into with a mini course, or we can talk more on the phone, Jean, to explore that more. I'm going to put the mini course thing in here as well. Who else would share? What were your biggest takeaways? Biggest takeaways today? Who haven't I heard from? Yeah, Charlotte.
I think it was really helpful just to know that, and I know this is a very common struggle that people have, you know, and it was really eye-opening to even hear, you know, your background into it. And you know, we see people that we kind of like that are mentors out, you know, in our professional life, and they make it look so easy, but I know that it takes work, and that's encouraging.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, I would say this is something I work on continuously, like every day, coming back to regulate my nervous system. I was gonna say release my nervous system, but regulate my nervous system. Where's my center? You know, how am I going to relate to the outer world? It's a constant balancing practice. Yeah. Mary says that one of her biggest takeaways was to trust improvisation. She loves the pauses and to practice, practice, practice. Thank you, Mary. Darshan says, my mindset matters and that I can choose to stay and play. Oh, I love that. That's really well said. One more person, what were your biggest takeaways? Who wants to come off and get their voice in the room? Haven't really heard from Robert, Anne, Therese, Carlos. Yeah, Robert.
I will say I don't believe you're an introvert, so I'm still trying to process that. One of my biggest takeaways was just finding out really where I need to focus, and the improvisation is something that I think could be really beneficial to me. So, and some of the tones, the fillers, I have a problem with fillers too. So that was good to identify those.
Good, Robert. It's good to see you here. He was at a talk I did maybe 2 weeks ago, so it was great to see you again. Glad you got that. And Carlos, you had your hand up. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, so a couple of key takeaways. Number one, I like the exercise where we did the difference in tonality between like I have something to say,
right,
which was more like assertive and confident versus the upspeak.
Yes.
That like really solidified that difference. And also like the concept that you talked about that I never heard about before, actually, innocent narcissism.
Yeah.
How we can like really be in our head and think about ourselves all the time. And it's not like nefarious or evil or kind of like selfish, but it's just the fact that we're just thinking about ourselves and how that can kind of like mess us up. So that was also really insightful.
Thank you for sharing. Thanks for bringing that back around. That's a really good one. And, you know, back to the being present with others, the shift is that I'm here for them, right? My job is to be present with them and give them a gift of my message. Yeah. Yeah, Santosha says, I'm giving a gift instead of getting their attention. Yeah, good. Well, let's transition here. You guys have the links for next steps with me. I look forward to chatting with a few of you over the next week or so about next steps of overcoming your performance anxiety for good, right? Once and for all, let's overcome this pattern. It's my belief. This last moment on this the soapbox here. It's my belief that this day and age, this time, 2020, more than ever, needs your voice, your authenticity. And so I hope you take this opportunity to step further into that journey of finding your voice and finding your confidence. All right, well, I'd love to hear your questions, open questions and answers here. So if you need to hop off, you're welcome to. The recording will go out tomorrow, and just raise a hand for some questions. Who has some questions? What are your unique personalized questions? Do you want to just sit here and stare at each other? Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Charlotte, go ahead.
I have a question with reading the room when nobody turns their camera on. So I'm facilitating a meeting, and it's not always necessary to turn the camera on. And sometimes if one person does it, then other people will do it. Sometimes it's just hard because I work in state government and our bandwidth, our VPN bandwidth isn't great. So the more people get on camera, it kind of slows the connection down. So how, I'm looking at a screen with a bunch of black squares. How do I connect?
Yes. Okay, so that was the end there.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say that I think I mentioned this early in the presentation, that in this new day and age with everything virtual, your audio, what they can hear of you, becomes more impactful than the visual. It's the opposite in person. Does that make sense? In person, what they can see of you, there's tons of statistics about this, is at least 55% of what the audience is responding to. And then the voice is somewhere around 35, 38%. But with this new virtual format, you might have a PowerPoint up, and they have other screens up, and text messages are coming in, and there's kids running around. There's a million things going on. And so they might be listening to you, but not watching you. And especially in the scenario you're talking about, Charlotte, when everybody has their screen off, you can be sure that no one's really looking at you necessarily, especially if you have your camera off. So my recommendation for everybody is to turn their cameras on as much as possible, because that creates more connection. It provides a lot more information. You get the nonverbal communication of facial expressions and body language and everything. There's so much information provided. However, the culture of your company might not allow for that, or might not encourage that. And then I'll just say, hey, well, maybe you're a rule breaker and you set a new trend. Or you just roll with being the only one because you know that you'll be more effective, and that'll shine through in how people think of you. In terms of the bandwidth thing, I don't know, that might be just something to navigate with your internet. I'm not sure about that. Yeah. I hope that helps to get some perspective on it.
It does. Thank you.
Cool. Somebody else had their hand up. I think it was Jean. Yeah.
So how do you work with the unconscious beliefs? Like, I didn't feel authentic saying I'm here to be totally 100% seen and heard. How would you work with somebody around those beliefs underlying?
What a great question. I mean, that's really goes to the heart of it, right? And it comes back to that somatic approach that I talked about. So we can tell ourselves over and over again, I'm willing to be seen and heard. I'm willing to be seen and heard. But what's more important in that moment is what you actually brought up, is that I say out loud, I'm willing to be seen and heard. And I notice in my body that I cringe, like I get tight. Well, that's what to pay attention to, is that your body is getting tight. So the work is around relaxing the body when you're in the spotlight. The work is around breathing deeper when you're on the spot. The work is keeping your eye contact while you're on the spot. Work with the body, and the thoughts naturally just like they shift. You'll all of a sudden wake up a year later and it's just not an issue anymore. In fact, I would invite Elise to hop on here if she wants to share. She's been working with me for like 5 years. So how have your beliefs changed through the somatic work?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I wrote for the improvisation part that when I'm speaking, I get new ideas sometimes. Things come out of my mouth. If someone interviews me, I can think of new ways to say things. And that's kind of fun. And I think it comes from that somatic presence. And I also know that it took a lot of work to get there, practicing with you and going through different, being in front of an audience with you and having everybody tell me something. And I'm like, I feel like I'm like so confused, like it's like when you go like rub your stomach and pat your head or something. Sometimes there's those moments when something is so buried unconsciously and you're just I almost feel like, whoa, but working through it and keep showing up and do the things, the uptones. I have something to say.
Yeah, girl.
I practice that. I wrote it on a little card. So I'm going to keep saying that because that's my default. The small self to me is I have something to say. So I'm going to practice this. And the nonverbal, I think that also, I just keep hearing the same messages, but I'll forget them in my daily life. So I really love this teaching.
Thank you for sharing, Elise. Yeah. And what she touched on there was a few pieces that I'll bring back and clarify here, that you're practicing these things both in a warm-up routine beforehand that has nothing to do with the actual speaking moment. That's one of the biggest keys, is having a warm-up routine that gets new ways of being into your muscle memory. It's like taking a pill every day. And then over time, like after you take the vitamin for a month or two, you start to see the effects of it. So that's what the somatic exercises do. They go to the core of the muscle memory and shift it there. And then, of course, like she's saying, is being in a safe environment like this tonight, or like I work with my clients one-on-one, where you try out those new things, it goes well, you get positive feedback, and you build a new positive history. That's when the thoughts change without you having to like drill into them and tell them anything specific. Very good question. All right, well, I'm here. Who else has a question? We can stay for another few minutes. I feel like Therese is sitting on something. No? No? And Jean raised her hand again, but I want to leave it open to other people too. Mary.
I just wanted to hear a little bit about your program. Would you be willing to share that here?
Sure.
Or is that more on the one-on-one?
Well, ultimately what I recommend is that you schedule a one-on-one, because as part of that, you get a prep process that has a questionnaire and a link to my program packet to read all about my programs. So if you want more specifics, sign up for that. But I'll just go general right now, that I have 4 different programs.
That'd be great, just general. Yeah.
Yeah. One's called the Fully Expressed Woman Mentorship Program. That's all about performance anxiety specifically, and about how you can grow into what it feels like to be fully expressed with your voice, your body, your emotions, and your presence. And then I have the Confidence on Stage program, which, don't be afraid about the term on stage. It's any time in the spotlight, and that's foundations of public speaking, along with the inner confidence pieces as well. So it doesn't go as deep into the performance anxiety stuff as the Fully Expressed, but there's pieces of that as well, with the foundations of public speaking. Everything from eye contact to gestures to how you hold yourself and releasing tension, etc. And I have what is it called? Blanking, the one about signature talk program, the one about content. So that's crafting a talk, and crafting a talk that's connected to your personal story, your authenticity, and is in line with your ideal audience. So there's market research as part of that process. But of course, I approach it from the angle of improvisation versus scripting. So, and the last program I have is called the 911 mini program. It's like, shit, I have a talk next week and I don't feel prepared. So help me in a more personalized and focused way.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
You're welcome, Mary. Good to see you.
You too.
I know that Jean had her hand raised, but I feel like somebody else did. Therese, were you about to say something? No, she's like, no, I'm not getting in the spotlight. Absolutely not. Anybody else? Questions? Okay, I'll come back to you, Jean. What do you got?
So I actually dance and perform, and I have used spoken word in my performances, and I'm not feeling, I don't feel the same fear as when I'm looking at people and just speaking. In fact, I don't move my body as much when I'm public speaking. And I'm just wondering what's going on in my brain. Is it just that I'm used to dancing more, or I'm in my body, so I'm sort of going through that somatic process that you're talking about?
Well, it sounds like you're comfortable with dancing, right? You've created a identity that you're comfortable with dancing. So that's a decision that you've made. And then there's a decision that with speaking, it's more scary. Does that sound about right? You can just shake your head, yes or no?
Yes, but then when I'm using spoken word with my dance performance, it's not as scary as when I'm
Good.
speaking first and then trying to add the movement.
Yes. Well, there is definitely something vulnerable about being still and just letting ourselves be seen, not putting anything on top of it, any costumes, any characters, any specific movement scripts or whatever your dance is, you know, just standing as myself and speaking from my authenticity is the ultimate. And so it sounds like what you're getting into, Jean, is a freeze pattern in your body where your body doesn't move as much. And so the process would be to learn what it feels like and what really matters around natural, authentic movement. It's not going to be your choreographed movements. There are public speaking trainers that teach that stuff, like you should do your gestures this way and move on stage like this. And it's totally formulaic. Now, if you can learn those things and then bring yourself to it and be like, but that's, you know, that's advanced, that's really advanced. So the key is to learn what it feels like. Here, Elisa and Michelle are my past clients. They can do this with me, and Carla. You know, you can do a little floppy body here. Come on, ladies, show them the floppy body. Oh yeah, we got some floppy body. So, you know, learning to be loose and expressive with your body is something you can somatically learn, just like you learned how to do, sounds like some sort of modern dance, right? Yeah, cool. And Ma, I think that your thumbs up meant that you have a question. Is that true? Is your name Ma? Ma?
Yes, yes. What I wanted to ask about, have you, part of your training other people, how long did it take for somebody to overcome that negative thoughts that comes before presenting to either a large audience or to a high stake, you know, participant or part of that meeting? How long did it take that process? Because I don't know what I'm doing wrong, because I spent a lot of time investigating and looking into this to just overcome it, because it's not just about the meeting. I don't like that feeling before those meetings. I feel like it kind of, some days it paralyzes you. This is the only thing you're thinking about. You prep and over prep sometimes. And it's just a matter of having a more normal life going into those with that, all of the nerve or the preparation that leads to it. But yeah, I'm interested to know how long it takes and what are your thoughts about it, the people that you worked with before.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. I hear you about how disruptive this can be too. It's just like inconvenient, like come on already. I just be able to go into that presentation and just do it, yeah? And I hear you. I mean, first of all, I want a disclaimer that these kind of negative thoughts will never fully go away. It's not like they are erased from you. And I think that's actually a good thing. In fact, when I asked my husband about self-criticism, this was in preparation for a little talk that I was giving about self-criticism in my Facebook group. He said, you know, that self-criticism is just feedback to you of how to shift and what to do a little differently. But we don't often take it that way. It feels like this very harsh thing that's coming down on us from the inside, and it tightens us up. So, you know, a more healthy approach to that self-criticism is to notice that it's feedback. How long does it take? Well, my programs are usually 3 to 4 months long. And I would say by session 4, there's 6 sessions. So by session 3 or 4, I see people come into a session and they're already beaming and they're lighter. They're already shifting. But the key is the consistent practice of the somatic exercises to see a shift. Now, you can just hear about this stuff all day. You can read books, you can watch YouTube videos, whatever, but actually doing the work, CAN. That's when you'll start to see shifts in how you're showing up and how you feel. So my sense is, Ma, if you've been doing a lot of research on this, but you haven't been seeing a change, then there's something about the actual exercises or experiences you're having on a regular basis that's just like compounding it. And I also did a video recently about how performance anxiety cannot be resolved with practice. That's my belief, is that you can't shift your pattern of performance anxiety just by putting yourself out there more and more and practicing more and more. The way to shift it is through having deliberate warm-up routines and practices to prepare yourself to be in a different state of being, and sustain that, be able to build a stamina to sustain that. That is a process, just like learning to lift weights at the gym, getting stronger in those biceps. Ma, I hope that helps. Is there any other follow-up questions or thoughts? Go ahead.
No, it does help. So I think what I've tried to do is even more and more of those meetings, but I think what put me back at the beginning, that I went maybe to thinking that it's okay. What put me back is that feeling. Instead of maybe practicing in a maybe safer environment, it's more about continuing to go to, it's part of my role, so I can't really stop it. But like I would go to the presentations and I'll present fine and everything goes well, but it's that pressure that stays before these meetings. It's just nonstop. While I can see other people don't put as much effort, or they don't need to over prep, or they don't need to live through all of that, and they just fine. That's what I'm trying to even get over. Like most of my meetings, they all went well. Presentations went well, but it still didn't give me maybe enough assurance that I shouldn't be thinking this way. I don't want to take so much time of others.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you for being so vulnerable about it. And I hear you like really frustrated with this pattern. And I understand. It does become frustrating when it's happening for so long and it feels like there's nothing you can do about it. And like you said, other people don't seem to have these problems. Who knows? They might, and you just can't see it. They're masking it really well, or maybe they don't. But embrace this as your journey, so to speak. Like, this is what you have. This is what your body's giving you. This is what your mind's giving you. And see if you can turn towards it instead of turning away and saying, no, I don't like you. I don't like you, performance anxiety. We turn towards it and say, okay, how can I support you with this? Body, mind, nervous system. How can I support you? And that's why the somatic exercises work so well, is because we turn towards it, turn towards ourselves, and nurture, build fortitude in our nervous system, and build the ability to handle the intensity of our own, our own feelings and the situation. So I'll encourage you in that way, Ma, and let's talk more in a phone call if you want to sign up for that phone call and go deeper there. All right. Well, you guys are still hanging out, so I'm wondering if there's other questions that you're waiting to ask. Anything, Karen or Mary, Michelle? No?
My question got answered. Everybody asked the questions I was thinking of. So I thought, well, maybe I'll hang around a little longer and they'll think of some more good questions that I should have thought of to ask.
That's sweet. That's sweet. I think Kadisha is still here too. So if there's anything, Kadisha, let us know. And Mary said no, and Michelle said no. Okay. My pleasure to be with you, ladies. Look forward to connecting in the future. Take care.